Hi and good day everyone. I am Simon Dawson, Senior Lecturer for Food Science and Technology at Cardiff Metropolitan University. Welcome to my short interviews with industry specialists where I get to ask how they got into their field of work, the essential skills that they use and any advice they can give anyone interested in entering the food industry as a career. Today I'm joined by Jo Elsdon. Jo is the Head of Food at Greencore Prepared Meals. Jo, welcome and thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you, nice to meet you.
So first, I'd just like to ask if you can explain a little bit about who you are and what you do at Greencore, please.
Yeah, so as you say, I work at Greencore, and Prepared Meals division is effectively ready meals, soups, sauces and quiches. So my team are responsible for product development and changing to recipes for all the products within our portfolio. So there's a team of 45 of us, all working hard to get the best products for all of the retailers on the market. So we produce for the majority of UK retailers, so all the big boys.
Wow. So there's 45 people that work in your department. Are they all in the same site, or is there different sites?
Yeah, so we've got 6 production sites, so the teams are split around. So I myself have got 5 direct reports, but actually across each of the teams we have some in Bristol, we have some in Warrington, in Sheffield, in Leeds, in Wisbech, so yeah, all around the country. So we are used to working virtual, but it's fair to say in this new world we've got much better at it.
Wow. So just going back a little bit, what made you choose the food industry as a career path in the first place?
So growing up, I was from a reasonably foodie family, but no sort of exciting product. It was a home cooked background. But I wanted to be a teacher, then I wanted to be a physio, but actually I wasn't clever enough to get my grades in biology. So I stumbled across food at one of the milk rounds at uni and suddenly discovered this whole new course and this whole new industry that really I didn't know anything about. And I loved food. I'd always been told the only thing you could do was be a chef, really. So that's how I discovered it. I kind of fell into it, really. And then when I was at uni, I went to Manchester Met and I did their placement year, which was invaluable. And it was really when I did my placement year as a product developer, I decided maybe that was the route that I should take, and kind of haven't really looked back 20 years on. Wow.
Could you give an outline then of your career path since leaving university to where you are today?
Yeah, no problem. So as I say, I did a placement year, and then when I graduated I did feel like I was a bit of a jack of all trades, and I didn't really have a specialism, and I didn't have a lot of self-confidence either, to be fair. So I decided to go and do a master's degree and specialise. So I specialised in nutrition, and I did that at Sheffield University, and that taught me that I definitely didn't want to work in nutrition, and I definitely wanted to be back in development. So it was a good year because it still sorted my head out, and really that year taught me a lot, and I think gave me some self-confidence as well. So I applied for a number of graduate schemes, and was successful to get on the Northern Foods graduate scheme. So I worked for them for a few years across meat factories, pizza factories, always in product development. And then I went to work for Cadbury Trebo Bassett, which was brilliant because that was actually a role whereby it was sweet, so everybody thought it was brilliant, but it was much more scientific. So quite a different experience. And there we also supplied a lot of the retailers at the same time. So after about 7 years in manufacturing, I then decided I needed a bit of a change and decided I might have a look at retail product development. So I've spent about 10 years working in retail for a number of retailers over the years, so Asda, Morrison's and the Co-op, and you see a really different side of product development in manufacturing to what you do in retail. They are quite different, and it's really good to get both sides of the spectrum. And then, again, I felt like I was sort of coming to the end of my longevity and needed a new challenge, and decided to jump back into manufacturing where it all really happened. So I've been back in manufacturing now probably for about 4 years, and love it. And it's really great to be able to complete the cycle and have worked both manufacturing, retail and come back again. It's been really great. But I think one of the things that's really helped me along the way with my career is I have done kind of a couple of secondments along the way as well. So at one point I did a role where I had to implement a recipe management system for one of my employers in manufacturing, which gave me a lot of experience in areas I knew nothing about. Got to travel quite a lot with that role because it was a global company. It was with Cadbury's. And then when I was at Morrison's as well, I became a project manager and managed a whole implementation of a relaunch of 11,000 products. So again, suddenly had to deal with all these functions, merchandising, retail operations that ordinarily I didn't have a lot to do with day to day. And I think that's really sort of taught me a lot about how to deal with people and the ways and a lot of the ways of working in the industry, really, which has been great. And it's probably stopped me getting bored as well.
Wow, God, you've had quite an interesting career then, path to where you are now. Could you talk about some of the greatest challenges then that you've faced since entering the food industry?
I think health is one of the biggest, and right from kind of quite early on in the industry, I would say. So certainly, you know, many years ago when salt started becoming the evil ingredient, you know, was within retail, and was the first time really when retailers were really looking to try and reduce salt contents of product. And that was a huge task to try and keep, you know, chipping away at salt levels to improve the nation's health and work with all of our suppliers to be able to deliver it. And it's never gone away, that health challenge. So I think there's been, you know, 3 sets of government targets since then on what salt levels we're trying to achieve. And there's now sugar targets and calorie targets, and, you know, what can you advertise on television and how does that affect the products that you deal with? And most recently, you know, the vegan and the plant side of things, which, you know, there has always been a place for vegan in the market, but the real explosion and the growth of it is phenomenal, and a lot of that is down to the health side of it. And it's being explored by such a wider area of the consumer base now. So yeah, I think health absolutely has probably been the biggest challenge so far. And I think going forwards, it's going to be sustainability. So obviously a lot of discussion, a lot of live discussion about sustainability, and a lot of manufacturers and retailers have made an awful lot of progress on that already. But really, I think in particular, I think the next 5 years are just going to be huge. And, you know, where we will be in 5 years' time and how packaging will look like, and, you know, where we will be with carbon footprint is going to be very different place to where I think we are now.
Oh, I definitely agree, because the plastics, you know, what people are perceiving about plastics and plastics being evil now, I think there's going to be some massive changes over the next few years as to what we're doing and what we're going to be using going forward as well.
Absolutely. And it's another area where we really need to encourage, I think, you know, people to study in these areas as well. So, you know, from my perspective, it's about, there's so much opportunity in the food industry, but it's not just necessarily the food side of it. You know, the packaging side is just going to continue to grow, and there's a lot of technology that needs exploring.
There certainly is. So what kind of essential skills or personal attributes do you use regularly that have helped shape your career?
So I think listening is really important. So as a product developer, there's a lot of people you've got to listen to. So most importantly, you've got to listen to your customers, who would be the retailers, and the final product consumers as well. But equally, you know, the best way that you learn and you become the best at what you can do is about listening and asking questions all of the time, trying to understand things. I think it can be quite difficult when you're certainly in the earlier stages of your career to have the confidence to ask questions, and you make a lot of assumptions, because I think sometimes you can worry about asking the questions, but it is the best way to learn. So that would probably be my number one. And in terms of in product development in particular, tenacity is really key, because we can make products over and over again, and we just have to keep going and going until we get that recipe right. And, my best example of that is a carrot soup that I once worked on, and we were trying to understand the best ever carrot soup recipe that we could for one of the UK retailers. And we wanted to understand what ingredient, the part that every ingredient played, and what happens if you take a roasted product or a pureed product or a blanched product. And we made 36 different versions of this soup before it launched, and it was the best ever soup, I have to say. But yes, it was. We can't lose our enthusiasm while we're going through that. So tenacity is key.
Mm-hmm. You must have been like a carrot overloaded by the time you tried 36 different versions of the same soup.
Yeah, I think I looked tanned all year that year.
So what kind of advice then would you give current students that might be interested in something similar to what you do?
Find out more is what I would say. It's a bit of an unknown industry, and it's brilliant. You get to eat in the food industry. It's what we do. So if you're interested in food, it's just a really exciting industry. It's very fast paced. So you have to be prepared to work really, really hard and at crazy paces, and the hours, often aren't standard, but it is the best industry in the world. And for those who are interested in going in product development, my top tip as well would be make sure that you get manufacturing experience and don't just kind of jump into the retail side first, because I think you learn really quickly when you're in a manufacturing business and you can see products being made, you can see them going down the line. It's much easier to learn and understand some of the challenges that suppliers face. And I think learn from your peers and learn from others in industry, and maybe consider finding a mentor who can help you to understand more about roles that might be available, and also help you to understand some of the challenges that you might face.
That's really good, that is. So what is your advice then for students completing their CV and cover letters, to try and help them get noticed during the interview stages or leading up to an interview?
Oh, I think it's so hard, I think, as a student, because you've got a CV, you might be doing a food-based degree, and so is everybody else applying for the same jobs as you. So I think the placement year or internships give you a real opportunity to gain something over and above your competition, and really understand what you want. And if you really understand what you want, you're going to be more passionate when you go for those interviews, and in the way that you adapt your CV. So I would say do adapt your CV, have a basis, but for every job that you apply, think about what makes it most relevant for them and how do you tailor it to show the best side of you that suits that job. And just think about everything that you've done in your background. So you might think you haven't got any relevant experience, and especially if you haven't done a placement year, but think about maybe a Saturday job that you've had, or helping at a local fete, or volunteering that you might have done. There are many things that students often, once you start probing somebody, they might have done things in school or in college or in uni where they've had levels of responsibility or supporting other people. And all those are really key skills that you can pull on. So just really sort of brainstorm around what those things could be, and then start to create your CV and your personal statement from that.
Great, thank you. So following on from the previous question then, if you were interviewing someone for a job, what would be your kind of advice that could help them stand out during the interview process?
My biggest one is be yourself. It can be hard sometimes because everybody's nervous at an interview, but really try and let your personality shine, and be really honest, I think, as well. So actually you might be worried that you don't meet all of the required personal attributes or the skill set, but actually if you're honest and you talk about that in some areas you might have less experience, an employer really likes to see that, because we can then understand where you can grow. But actually if we can see your honesty and we can see your passion, then that counts for an awful lot, and would far rather quite often have somebody in the team who is willing to learn and wants to learn more. And I think the other thing is, like like try and reach out to connections. So if you're on LinkedIn, you know, try and find people who maybe know a little bit about the company or have worked there previously, and don't be afraid to reach out to people, because, you know, most of us want to help you get into the food industry, and I think would more than happily, you know, spend a quick 15 minutes or half an hour of our time talking through how we might be able to help.
Great, thank you. So just before then we wrap it up for today, do you have any final words or advice to anyone interested in a career in food?
It's brilliant, so don't hesitate, and I would highly recommend, and it should be your first choice. But no, I think stay true to yourself. I've kind of touched on this as well, but make sure that you're yourself and you don't try and be somebody that others think you should be, which can be quite hard, especially in your early career. And I think don't worry if you don't settle into a role. Sometimes we've all made career decisions which maybe haven't been the right thing and have moved on more quickly than we expected to. But again, you'll learn from it and you'll look back and reflect and think, actually, it was a really, really valuable experience. And then I think the final thing would be do your research. So make sure that you know about a company and it does feel right for you, whether that be the culture of a company, whether that be the product area. You want to have some passion for the products that you're developing, or, you know, it might be the location. Be clear about that from the start and set yourself your own little guide rails for what you're looking for, and you can use that as a bit of a tick list. But sometimes you can surprise yourself and end up in a role that you didn't think you thought would be particularly exciting, and it can turn out to be the best job in the world. So I suppose don't make too many assumptions.
Great. Well, Jo, thank you very much for taking your time and talking to me today. Thanks
Pleasure.
very much. Yeah, great. And you take care. Thank you.
Thanks.